Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. This episode is also brought to you by Peghead Nation, the home of roots music instruction. If you want to improve your playing, join me and thousands of other pickers getting better every day at pegheadnation.com. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday the 4th of November 2024. And to get you up to speed, if you've missed some recent stuff on the podcast, main thing is the week just been, I put out an episode with Bryan Sutton, which was a benefit episode for the IBMA Trust Fund. And we're raising money for Hurricane Helene relief efforts. If you haven't heard that, go and have a listen. Great chat with Bryan, partly about growing up in Asheville and kind of the area that was affected by the hurricane and his memories of kind of community and music there, but also just a bunch of questions put to Bryan from listeners to Bluegrass Jam Along, ranging from technical stuff through to, his favourite performances he's either seen or been part of, some really cool stuff about music that he listens to you might not think about. Really enjoyed that. And the main thing is the donations. So that is still open if you want to donate. The fundraiser is going to be open for another week or two. Go and listen. I'll put a link in the show notes, both to the episode and to where you can go and donate. We've raised nearly $7,000 at this point, and I'd love to get over the line and get to 7. So if anybody is still not listening to the episode and not donated, please do. We would be very, very grateful. Coming up this week, got a great interview with Sierra Hull, which you do not want to miss. I chatted to Sierra a couple of years ago, and she's been touring a lot with Baylor Flex since, and with her band, and recording some new music. She's got a new record on the way. We chat a little bit about that. We also talk about the 2 covers she put out recently of Tears for Fears' Mad World and Grateful Dead's Black Muddy River. Really interesting talking about those, how those songs came into her life and how she ended up recording them. She's also got a couple of singles coming out, holiday songs in the next couple of weeks. We talk about that a little bit as well. But it's just really interesting to catch up and sort of hear the process of kind of the last couple of years and how that's led towards this record that's now recorded and it's coming out first quarter of next year. So do listen to that. Sierra is a good value conversation about all things musical at any point. She obviously thinks deeply about stuff, but she's just, a fun conversation as well. So do listen to that. That is coming out on Wednesday. Next week, I've got a conversation with Sarah Jarosz, all about her record Blue Heron Suite, which I love. And we talk basically about that for nearly an hour, which was an absolute treat. So come back and have a listen to that next week. But that is it for podcast news. Let's crack on and talk about what is new. And I've only really got one thing in the news and announcements for you this week. There's a book called Poor Gal, The Cultural History of Little Liza Jane. And it's a book about the song Little Liza Jane and various variants of that and how those songs sort of came to be in people's repertoires, how there's performance aspects of it, all sorts of just fascinating stuff about how this group of songs are interlinked and have been performed. And it's by a guy called Dan Gustine. Or Gustine, I don't know, but I will find out in a couple of weeks. I'm going to interview him about it. But I just wanted to sort of flag that in advance. But the book has been the recipient of a 2024 Special Recognition Award in the Deems Taylor Virgil Thompson Book Awards. Just discovered that a couple of days ago, so that's great news. Really looking forward to chatting to Dan about that. Never quite know what to expect when I chat about books with people, and they're often some of the most interesting conversations. So I will bring you some more on that. But if you fancy reading the book in advance of the interview, it's called Poor Gal, The Cultural History of Little Liza Jane. Go and check it out. And if not, come back and listen to the episode in a few weeks and you will find out all about it. But that is it for news and announcements this week. Let's move on to The Grass is New. couple of bits this week. Henhouse Prowlers have a new song called Line the Avenues, which is now out, and I have put on the Grass is Mostly New playlist. Gonna listen to that. Also got something sent through, a self-titled debut album by what I described as a progressive acoustic band, High Horse. Their record is coming out in a couple of months, but they've got a single out now called Discern, which is also in the Grass is Mostly New playlist. It was produced by Jacob Jolliffe and engineered by Dave Cinco, who's a bit of a legend. But it's a really interesting one. There's some pop sensibilities to it, but it also has hints of like maybe things like Punch Brothers and Nickel Creek, maybe some of the Edgar Meyer stuff. Really interesting, worth a listen. I'm looking forward to hearing the record in full when the album comes out, but do go and check that out. So it's 2 new singles, Henhouse Prowlers, Line the Avenues, and High Horses Discern. Go and listen to those, they're in the playlist. As is everything we've chatted about on the briefing over the past 10 months now. It's building up into a really interesting collection of music, so do go and check that out if you haven't heard it. There's a link in the show notes. That is it for The Grass is New. Moving on to Scroll On Buddy. Which, as always, is just something that I've spotted on social media. And the Halloween theme for Billy Strings this year was Oh Billy, Where Art Thou? And they look like a just fascinating set of performances. Been watching some clips on various social media platforms, getting people in to do those songs, some very special guests, some really interesting combinations of people, and who doesn't love Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'll dig some bits out and stick links in the show notes. Go and have a listen, because just a lot of fun. Billy's Halloween shows are always entertaining to see them sort of see where he's taken them and what they've been doing. And this one is no exception. So yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to go and check out some bits and pieces from that. But that's it. It's pretty short briefing this week. Just sort of left is the In My Ears this week bit. And actually this week I've been steering a little bit clear of bluegrass and string band stuff. Not intentionally, just I think after talking to Bryan for the episode we put out, the interview was on Monday, and he was talking about other stuff and listening to music outside of bluegrass, and I just sort of found myself wandering off down a little avenue of classical stuff that I haven't heard for a while, and listening to some string quartets and listening to bits of opera and some choral music. And yeah, I get so deep into the bluegrass and string band stuff for the podcast, particularly just listening to new stuff to put in the playlist, listening to records when I'm going to interview people about them, listening to all sorts of stuff for context and research, and I love all of it. It's great. I really enjoy it. But sometimes it's nice just to have a week off and listen to something else. And it's funny how you go down a little rabbit hole of something else. And that's been it. So I've got nothing particularly to recommend this week. So if there's any music particularly that's been new out this year that I've missed, and I haven't mentioned on these episodes, let me know. I'm really keen to sort of hear what there is. I'm bound to have missed all sorts of great music. So if you've got anything to recommend, do get in touch, either matt@bluegrassjamalong.com, or just find me on the social channels and message me, or tag me in a thread or whatever. I'd love to hear what there is. That is it. Been a fairly short briefing this week. Do come back on Wednesday to hear the interview with Sierra Hull, and if you haven't, please do check out the IBMA Trust Fund benefit episode with Bryan Sutton. But that is it. I will see you next time. Have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.